Hello, reader friends. This is Misty Beller, and I'm so excited you guys joined us for another segment of our road trip. For this video, we have left Glacier National Park. We're still in Montana for much of it, and we trekked south and a little west, went all the way up into LoLo Pass. This area is especially special to me for two reasons. One, my oldest daughter's name is Logan, and a nickname that she only lets a couple of us call her is Lolo. So if you're keeping track through the different videos, this is the second location that's been named after my daughter Logan. So we had fun taking a picture of her with the sign. The other reason LoLo Pass is special to me is that it was a very important milestone on the Lewis and Clark expedition. It was, in fact, probably the hardest part of their journey. Many of them almost died through there. It was the peak of the Bitterroot Mountains. They were following the LoLo Trail, and it was winter, just a really bad time. But I had one of my books set along that path. Hope in the Mountain River is set on the LoLo Trail. So we spent time, we saw the edge of Idaho, where Montana changes into Idaho, and then we went back into Montana, back down the trek, and we spent some time at the Travelers Rest Welcome Center. Saw some really neat things there. Here's a picture of the moccasins that the Lewis and Clark expedition would have worn. And also, I'm kind of a history nerd, so I thought this picture was really neat. It's the flint and steel that they used to make fires, and also that shredded stuff that's in the tin. They would have used that for tinder. So they would have sparked using the flint and steel and tried to get the spark to land in that tinder so that they could blow a little puff of flame. Very interesting to me. Hope you guys enjoy it too. We camped that night in Bannack State Park, and when we first entered, we saw a deer right there. It followed us for a little way.
What are you doing?
Hello, reader friends. I am so excited to show you Bannack, which is a ghost town in Montana. Bannack was started around the same time as Butte and Helena, but Bannack was actually the territorial capital at one point. But now it's a ghost town. You can see some of the buildings here, and I'll show you more in just a minute. We arrived in the ghost town portion of Bannack State Park around sunset, which was a great time to tour a ghost town. This was a really neat building. It was the schoolhouse, and you can see there's a little merry-go-round in front that the kids could actually play on. And inside, there's a list of rules that the teachers would have had to keep way back in the day. Pretty tough rules. People actually still lived in some of the buildings in Bannack up until the 1960s. So there were a few more modern buildings, but a lot of them were still as they were back in the 1800s. There were several neat old wood cook stoves and some that had been converted to gas. So this is something really interesting about Bannack, the ghost town. These two buildings are their jails. During the peak gold rush time, which was kind of early 1860s, there were no jails here. Offenders were either kicked out of town or simply warned, or they were hanged. And they were hanged on some gallows that are way out there. You probably can't see them. But this jail, this one is the first one that was built. And inside you can even still see the metal rings that the prisoners were chained to. And you see the rings right there. And as they were chained, they could look out the window, the barred window, and see the gallows way yonder in the distance. Sounds like not a lot of fun, huh? So this church reminds me a little bit of Reverend Marcus's church in The Lady in the Mountain Promise, if you've read that one. This is a little more elaborate than I imagined Marcus's. The glass window on the front, that's so pretty. But that would be a little fancier than I would expect a little country church in Butte, which is where that book was set. But it still reminds me so much of it. As I mentioned before, I'm just a little bit of a history nerd, and Bannack was not a stop we planned to take. We were actually just looking for a campground and found Bannack, but it was a treasure. As we were driving, we occasionally saw more herds of buffalo on the roadside, and we were delighted to find that there was a town named Logan as well. Again, if you're keeping up, this is the third landmark named after my oldest daughter. So of course we had to take a picture with her beside the road sign. And that's it for the tail end of the Montana portion of our road trip. Our next video, we head down to Utah and Zion National Park and the Grand Canyon. Can't wait for you guys to join us there.